Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and welcome to this Future Friday. Yes, on Future Friday, we talk about tabletop RPG games, specifically those that relate to the elements of transhumanism, whether it's GURPS Transhuman, Eclipse Phase, Altered Carbon, The Expanse, and so many others out there. Yeah, hey, everybody, happy Friday. Hello, hey, Cameron, Scott. Wow, okay, thanks, guys. All right, Future Friday. What are we talking about? Well, oddly enough, many of the subjects we talk about during the other 4 days of the week at the same time, same place, really blends nicely into our transhuman, post-human sci-fi gaming experience on the weekend. So I'm pretty glad that it's actually working out a lot better than I thought it would. So of course, we've been talking about twins, and we are going to talk about technological twinning. Of course, the thumbnail includes like copies, duplicates, clones, and that kind of thing. Now, of course, there are many twin tropes when it comes to technology. We know that true cloning isn't quite what we think it would be as portrayed by the layman in our society, because of course we're well above the layman in our society when it comes to cloning, because we have two aspects to think about. We have to think about the biological portion of that, and the psychological portion of being a twin or cloning. Now, of course, there's nothing that stops someone from being born as twins, either accidentally or purposefully in the future. And there are plenty of nefarious reasons, both for and against the player characters and the game master that runs the game to use this. And that's what we're going to talk about. All right, so let's get some ground rules. Biological twins or cloning is basically creating a body out of the material of the individual that was stolen. Yep. Yeah, Dead Man, Dead Man. It's like the Star Wars novels had hundreds of clones of Emperor Palpatine. There's plenty of science fiction we can pull from. Orphan Black is a good example of clone. We've seen comedy movies that pull clones out of the rear end, and usually what happens is it's pretty easy to pull from the biological cloning by having the actors and actresses, or even using CGI to duplicate the person over and over again in the background. Even in such movies as The Social Network, with the twins that were against Zuckerberg in I forget the school, Harvard. But anyway, then there's also psychological duplication of twinning, where it's not just the body that has been grown or duplicated, or an individual uses their own DNA to basically raise their own brother or sister, but you also have a duplication of the mind, where absolutely cortical stacks fit right into those, and combining those two together, you can come up with a duplicate. Yeah. Yep, Altered Carbon had the copy from season one. In the Altered Carbon universe, well, let's get into some reasons why player characters and game masters would even want to include this kind of thing. Let's hit the first half of this episode by doing this in favor of the player character. So, a great idea. The funny thing is, this is a great way to solve something that happens a ton in role-playing games, and that is, if you have a player, excuse me, who loves to play the same type of character, and often does the eye-rolling, my character died, my character's brother or uncle or sister or something shows up later, and he basically is the exact same stats. He just erased the name and adjusted a couple of like numbers or pieces of equipment and came back into the game. Honestly, it actually fits really well into Eclipse Phase and Altered Carbon and like transhumanism I mean, a player character that has criminal connections or wants to establish connections in the underworld and criminality or even politics or business, who better to trust than yourself? So a a player character could very reasonably, in depending on where they're located in the settings in both of these games, and more. Maybe they come from a community or a habitat or something where everyone literally is the clone of each other, and you could even have a whole group of players having player characters who are clones of each other with just very slight differentiation. I go back to what Dead Man's reference to Star Wars. They did that where you had, before Order 66, you had the Clone Wars, and um, you had the various clone troopers who were all clones of each other, and that'd be a pretty cool thing to pull from. And a player character having some kind of connection that is basically them somewhere else. Maybe one person's in politics, one person's a criminal, another one's in law enforcement, yet another is a spy, and hidden away. Someone else is a hacker, and it's basically them somewhere else. Why not? And there are mechanisms in both games to allow one to create an alpha or beta or gamma copy of the other individual of themselves, to needle cast or ego cast themselves to another location, so that, for example, a businessman doesn't necessarily have to leave Mars to visit Luna. They just send their mind, inhabit a biological body there, which is a copy of themselves on Mars. That body has a couple of business dealings, and then they upload their mind back to Mars to reintegrate with the primary. And there's a lot of things that can happen in between that process, because maybe both of them are separated somehow, or there's a criminal element involved in it, or there's a mistake, or there's some kind of a sabotage or espionage is created where both divergent personalities think that the other one is destroyed, or they're trying to get back together again. And this is where we come up with some really great stories, in terms of twinning the player characters and why the hell that would even happen in the first place. Yeah. Deadman says Eclipse Face has the Tenawa Tenorios, where the entire habitat is all mind clones of the matriarch of the one person. And you can have a lot of stories where maybe a player character doesn't remember escaping maybe a habitat that is filled with everyone that looks exactly the same, or the player character is like a soldier. They get pulled out of cold storage, they get their weapons, they're like, I'm a badass, I'm gonna get back into the fight, and then they come around the corner to meet their teammates, and come to find out that all their teammates are, well, basically them. Why wouldn't a corporation who has highly skilled soldiers just copy those highly skilled soldiers? No need to waste all that time and energy spent to become a badass, right? Player characters may have hidden. This is where the game mastering and the ability for your players to loosen up what they think of as their background and even their memories. We've seen this plenty of times where storylines are, main character wakes up, has no memory, and then realizes they have badass skills, but they know nothing about their origins. And this is Orphan Black is a perfect example of this, as an example where all of the clones have no idea about the histories, or they have relatively mixed information, but not the entire story as to why there are other people who look exactly like them. Heck, a player character could just be stumbling along the city, not knowing what's going on, and then they look down after they see, the police and authorities, and they see themselves on the ground as someone who's died or jumped out of a building or was murdered in the street or something, or in a dark alley, and they look around like, ooh, I better get out of here because that person looks just like me. Thanks, Dead Man. The Tenorios. are a large polymarriage family unit composed of multiple forks of the same person. Forking is taking your forking, zoxing copies of your cortical stack. Anyway, forks of the same person, Zanny, Tenorio, and their spouses and children. The number of Zanny forks in the family, numbers in the 50s, all sleeved in various morphs of different sexes, spread throughout the fleet with over 2 dozen spouses, all of them shared by the forks. You know, narcissism is a powerful psychological tool. I'm sure there are plenty of people with the time, energy, and resources in a post-human society where they would clone themselves, even altering their genders, and then just basically having a poly, I don't know, I was about to say celestial, a constellation relationship with oneself for various reasons, or yeah, she took "Go Fork Yourself" to heart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're like, "Go fork yourself." You're like, I wonder if that's possible. Yeah, basically having now, mind you, it's not just about having someone who is exactly like you, same size, uh, age, weight, but with technology, you can of course adjust. You can adjust the gender. You know, who better to love than yourself, right? You can adjust the genders, how many they exist, their age ranges, depending on the population you come from. There might be older copies and younger ones raising the older family members raising the younger ones and such. So you can get a little bit incestuous in terms of these things, and this there may need to be new descriptions of these types of family units that may exist in this type of world. The sexual appetites of the Tenorios are legendary, even among the scum. It is rare for the Zanny Forks to remerge. They prefer to live independent lives within their family structure. Before joining the swarm, Zanny worked for a decade as an asteroid prospector, and today the Tenorios continue to specialize in mining operations. They operate one of the swarm's mining tugs, the Disco Inferno. Birdo. So yeah, absolutely. And you know, as a player character, this is also a very different but cool way to describe some of your capabilities. Again, having very loyal contacts, having the reason for having a backup character in the first place, despite having like backup insurance or something, or maybe a character has high skills in stealth and espionage, but the reason isn't due to being like a ninja. It's because of coming from a family of people, and I say family loosely, of people who look and sound identical with the same body features, mannerisms, voice intonations, so that it's difficult for the authorities to detect one out of the group of so many that exist out there in the world. And it could be very situational, right? Maybe there's a habitat spinning around Saturn that just so happens to have dozens, if not hundreds, of copies of you, so that if you were to commit a crime, it's difficult for them to pinpoint exactly which clone it was that did the thing. Now, I understand in Altered Carbon, it is illegal to run around with basically a copy. But listen, even after they said that, there was a meth that made an offer to the main character Takashi. It was like, we could always escape out of here. I can just, activate a bunch of, clones of myself, and we can have a little sexual fun and a multiples. Just me plus me plus me plus you. I mean, so despite the fact that there are rules means that there's going to be people who are going to break those rules. I think it's perfectly acceptable. Now, depending on your game, who is in charge of where these duplicates came from, is a session zero kind of thing. Maybe a player character has this great idea that they come from a a highly trained mercenary group that they do like black ops, and they're clones of each other. And maybe the game master's like, "Ooh, I've got a great idea. Maybe the player character is being continually hunted by his own clones, right?" Or maybe in a storyline, someone creates the game master wants to create an adversary, and for some reason the adversary knows exactly what the player character is about to do and where they are and what they're doing. And once they uncover something, maybe the other allies are like, "Why is this person always one step ahead of us?" And the main player is like, "I think I know why, because they're me." And they're like, "Well, how do you know it's you?" And they're like, "Well, they're just as skilled as I am, because I know what I would do. So of course they're going to shoot at us from the 87th floor or something like that, because that's where I would be, right?" And it could work both for and against that player character to be hunted by themselves. And of course we've seen what's there's a most recent movie, Gemini Man, but we've seen that done plenty of times, where one copy goes after the other, as a hunter or serial killer or invasion of the body snatchers, or anything of that nature. Now, of course, we don't have to limit ourselves to twins. We have been talking about whole poly clonal marriages and things of that nature, but we also have the idea of duplicates and cloning and such for other purposes, like kidnapping, torture, a person's cortical stack that gets copied untowards their information, that is then modified or twisted around to be used for nefarious reasons. Player characters on a Black Ops mission, because they always are, they cast their brain to a distant location, knowing that they've escaped from the clutches of whatever nefarious individual there is, not knowing that the needle cast or ego cast or dart casting machine only sent a copy of their cortical stack, keeping their stack and them at their original location, thereby automatically diverging both personalities. One that felt that they never escaped, the other one that has escaped, knowing in their heart and mind that they've escaped and they are no longer in danger. And that's one of the while I love the technology, and player characters will love the technology, sometimes referred to as the restart function of transhumanist or post-human gaming, where you can always go back to your spawn point and do it all over again. It's fun in that sense, but it's also you're also under the limitation that every time you do it, you are at the mercy of someone else or something else. Yeah, Dead Man brings up Dark Matter, and Sci-Fi did that method, where you the the identity that wakes up out of the chamber, let's say, feels that they are the primary individual, when the person who didn't escape from the chamber also feels that they're primary, that they and logistically speaking, it's both correct. Now, I know in Eclipse phase they do make a distinction between alpha personalities and beta personalities, where if you are a business person, you can send a beta or even a gamma personality, essentially a truncated form of your personality designed for only one purpose. But there's really no limitations on copying your entire personality and sending it on its way. So every time a player character doing their Black Ops, casting from one location to another, is at the mercy of the mechanisms involved, of the people that they are utilizing to help them do this. If it's not automated, they are at the mercy of the programming, and whether there's something in the programming and that's been altered or changed, or being used for nefarious reasons or to defend themselves. I could imagine a criminal organization holding a copy of your stack on file, if for no other reason than as blackmail, if you do something against them later on. So they could spin up the copy of you after you went on the mission, which has all of your memories of that mission, and they can then interrogate that personality as they see fit, while you yourself has escaped as a perfect copy somewhere else, untowards. So player characters are at the mercy of where they are and where they're going to. When you arrive, how do you know what body you're in? You don't know. Did you arrange for this to happen? There are mechanisms for this. In Eclipse Phase, they have Firewall. I'm sure in the cyberpunk, dark noir, street elements of Altered Carbon, there are many factions and organizations that would help you out to so that you arrive in the body that you want, but maybe not. And we haven't even touched upon synthetic bodies, off-the-shelf synthetic bodies, cases, case morphs or whatever that are look identical. And again, that may be a great reason for a player character to have an off-the-shelf synthetic body, no matter what mechanical shape it has. I can imagine security forces, scientific exploration, maybe even plain old labor, construction, that kind of thing, or a particular corporation has a theme that runs along both their biological staff and their synthetic staff. So a player character pulls one of them off the shelf and likes to run around in one of theirs, or maybe a corporation went under for some reason, or a player character is a throwback to a lost war or something where everyone took the same bodies, over and over again, and while they may not to this day still be created, in Dungeons and Dragons, there are the Warforged, and so maybe these individuals, despite being synthetic, do look alike and act alike and have similar behavioral traits before diverging. And divergence is one of those things that you can really play with for the story, because you can set up the expectations and the breaking of those expectations. An example would be an individual who hums the same song, sings the same song, loves a certain type of cookie, likes to smoke, drums their fingers, has a certain kind of ironic smile. Maybe they have a certain kind of color. They wear a red scarf no matter what form they're in, or they like to they have a lost loved one that they always try to contact over and over again, and their lost loved one is like, "Stop calling me! There's like 18 of you guys out there. Stop it!" Maybe like to maybe they're a little stalkery with their lost loves or something, or they always seem to go to the same type of restaurants, or they love the same kinds of foods. And so while the divergence, so maybe the clones and copies and twins have diverged enough that they aren't in the same biological bodies or even synthetic bodies any longer, and their memories have diverged enough over weeks, months, years, dozens, hundreds of years, but there's still some core essential value that makes them all related to each other, right? Rich says, Gemini Man, The Sixth Day, and the third book of the Altered Carbon series, to name some, all play with the you get a twin whether you like it or not. And two of them play with the you are your own worst enemy trope. Yeah, you get a twin whether you like it or not. And this is, like I said, again, I like the idea of playing with this both from the player character's benefit point of view. Of course I got an ally. I completely trust them, and the player characters are like, we can't trust anyone in this cyberpunk noir world filled with neon lights and damp streets. And the player characters is like, I got a little thing up my sleeve, and then they make a call, and then they call themselves from somewhere else because hey, if you want to trust anybody, it's yourself, right? And you get a twin whether you like it or not might be something set up by like a criminal organization. Hey, you want to join us? You got to be one of us, right? Or the criminal organization makes copies of themselves. Of course, a crime lord, a paranoid ass crime lord, is going to possibly make copies of themselves because they don't trust anyone. So all of the thugs, all the bodyguards, all of the hitmen and assassins and bagmen and fixers and all, maybe they're all the crime lord, and they all look like the crime lord, and the authorities are like, "Oh, we arrested 15 of you guys. One of you is the main person." And you're like, I wasn't there, buddy. I was just hanging around minding my business. Like, yeah, well, if it wasn't you, it was one of your brothers. Why not? That may be a thing. Now, again, players, be if you just relax a little bit from the idea that my background is carved in stone, don't touch it, really doesn't play well in terms of transhuman, post-human gaming, right? The idea that you don't know if you can trust your own memories, you don't know if you can trust the people around you and what they've done, and even if whether you can even trust yourself, is in and of itself a great story tool, but it requires an agreement, a synergy between the game master and the players to pull on those threads and to use those threads. In taking something like, say, Gemini Man or the Altered Carbon book series, and even as displayed in the second season of Altered Carbon, we had a twin situation. Maybe they didn't look alike biologically, but they were of similar minds, although those minds were separated by a couple hundred years. They were still twins of each other. They still had the same personalities, and you can get into some really complicated social issues. An example would be, if you how do you handle both personalities falling for the same person? Of course they would. If one clone has an attraction to one individual, of course the other clone is going to have an attraction to that same individual. In While this might not be done through technology where you are in Eclipse phase, there are Pandora gates. What if an a xenobiologist goes through a Pandora gate to a realm where there is invasion of the body snatchers, plant-like creatures that steal the DNA of one of the explorers and makes a copy and sends it back through the Pandora gate to live, back in our own solar system. Maybe that individual starts contacting people or starts living your life when you're not there, or you wake up from cold storage only to find out that a copy of you has been living your life this entire time and doing a better job of it, right? There's a heck of a lot of that as well. And a storyline could be that the big bad evil guy really is you, or trying to socially convince one or more of copies of you to join in to take down another big bad evil guy, even though the other copies are like, dude, I don't even want to even be near you because they're gonna delete all of us if we hang around too much. I'm taking the money and I'm out. And they're like, well, that's my money. And I'm like, no, it's mine. I've been taking care of it all these years. And of course hilarity ensues as who's the true copy. Of course, everyone is tends to be self-centered. Of course, you think you are the original, and everyone else is a copy of you. Much like the movie The Sixth Day, which is weird that Arnold Schwarzenegger gets to be in these highbrow psychological, technological features, but whatever. So yeah, playing with the enemy of your enemy, and then maybe even playing with the enemy of my enemy is my ally, my friend, against yourself for the sole purpose of defeating yourself is a really cool thing. And you could even go so far as to portray a character who gets put down and then pick up another player character from a different point of view, which is really you yourself, portraying now a new version of yourself from a different point of view, which might be pretty. I think that would be pretty cool. And I think even it's in the third season of Altered Carbon, I believe that situation may come up. You know. Yeah, I hear you there, Rickard. Yeah, yeah. The source might have been, but but were the movies really? Not the movies really, really delve into the highbrow stuff. But the source material, very much source material of all this. This source material for Altered Carbon, the source material for the movie The Sixth Day, and hell, all the rest of that stuff. Total Recall, so on and so forth. You can even, I think, even the movie Surrogates hits upon this, the idea that human beings teleoperate mechanical people who are idealized versions of themselves fits into this idea of duplicates and clones and twins, in the sense that there are two of you existing. One is a mechanical one that is the epitome of what you see yourself as, and then there's the human one, which is stuck at home, portraying a somewhat apathetic version of yourself, who's been separated. Uh, Societal agoraphobia, I guess, would be the thing. Fear of crowds, or fear of going outside or something, and getting around that. Also, there might be a pride in being synergistic, right? There may be factions where it's not necessarily a clone of one person, but it is the commingling of ideas, mind, hive minding, psychologically, mixing of DNA, where it's not that you look like a specific individual you can find in the world, but maybe every individual is nondescript, so that they are a hive mind, and they take pride in converging together, so that male, female, young, old, or whatever. I'm thinking of the classic silver suit, bald alien kind of, or humans kind of thing, where everyone dresses the same, acts the same, laughs at the same, has the same bemused laugh at the same jokes. They read the same books, they study the same science, and they're all on the same page. There may be pride in a faction, especially when they try to recruit others into their faction, that maybe they find people that are lost or depressed. They are cast out of other societies, and they just want to feel like they belong. And recruitment into one or more of these organizations might be the supplanting of your own desires and your own emotions to feel better, to feel like you belong to a group. Now, I understand that one of the great things about transhumanism is it's not about technology being evil. It's about technology, what good and evil can come from it. Now, there is some speculative fiction that deals with this is a bad thing. Lovecraftian horror is a perfect example of the don't look too deeply into the abyss, because the abyss will look right back into you, right? And a lot of speculative fiction will take one specific type of technology, tell you all the bad things about it, and we're done. But transhumanism takes a lot of different technologies and says, okay, maybe it's not the technology, maybe there's something wrong with us as people. There's great good that can come from it, like the idea of exowombs. How fast can a clone body be assembled? That depends on your world. You can say it could be assembled within minutes, hours, days, or maybe it requires not only DNA and biological material, but maybe it takes 21 years to grow a 21-year-old cloned body, and these things have to have happened, been pre-planned well ahead of time. And so the idea that for good someone wants to belong with everyone else or be part of a cloned family or whatever, and then the evil being forced to join a group like that, both things can exist simultaneously. And you can kind of play with it in a science fiction, sci-fi kind of world. Now, we've only gotten about halfway through this, and I thought we could talk about more on the game master side of things. and talk about where it is that we can really challenge our players' notions of right and wrong, and who can you trust and who's an ally and enemy. So for a game master, for me, what we really want are a lot of tools we can put in our toolbox for use later. And one of those is basically taking a player character's character sheet and copying it and making them their own worst enemy. Lots of players who are highly skilled in the rules of the game. I'm not talking about characters. I'm talking about players. May know the rules to the back and front and everything, and min max the hell out of their characters. Why not, as a game master, use that to your benefit? Just sit back and go ahead, min max your character. I don't really care, because guess what? I'm going to use that individual against you as an adversary, an enemy, as a as antagonist that happens to come up over and over again, as someone who seems to know your every move before you make it, or seems to leave evidence of crimes and things, and you've never been there, or have you been there, right? So that's a really good thing to leave behind. Rickard goes on to say, not really twinning, but digital entities that can jump bodies as they see fit. So you might shoot down one robot only for another one to awaken from their pod to start coming after you. All you did was inconvenience the digital entity. Yeah, absolutely. The idea that in these worlds, shooting someone in the head, and of course missing their cortical stack without blowing it away, really is more of an inconvenience than it is true death. So while you might be a badass and can kill a bunch of robots that end up where another one wakes up again to come after you, you're actually creating your own inconvenience for doing such a thing. So yeah, there's a built-in in these games. There is a built-in idea that you're really not eliminating your problem by blowing away your problem with a bunch of guns, right? They're just going to just reconstitute their copies of their digital personalities and come at you from a different angle, right? Sure, you did your run and gun mission and you were on Mars and you ran to the space elevator and you got into a running gun fight and you blew a couple of guys away and you're like, woo, we got away from there, only to realize that they realized they tracked you to Jupiter, the region around Jupiter. They needle cast or ego cast their personalities there, got a couple of bodies, maybe duplicated their personalities. So now they have about 8 or 9 members instead of the 2 that were coming after you, and you're none the wiser, right? And of course, they know your capabilities as well. You've already proven what you can do. Now they've just got more information on you, and you've done nothing to help yourself out. So I love that idea. Deadman says podmorphs can be assembled in days. Biomorphs have to be grown in full and take much longer, 10 to 15 years to grow an adult brain. Yeah, Ultron. And Rick responds like, Ultron? I think Ultron perfectly fits into the idea of the single mind, multiple bodies. And Ultron, in many ways, was a copy of Tony Stark, or rather, I mean, you could make in the MCU cinematic version was really a program, but you could argue that really that character was Tony Stark, writ large. So yeah, when a player character is like, you know what would be really cool? If I made a squad of soldiers that are just like me, and then use the game master to go, yeah, sorry, you already did it. And player character's like, what? Like, yeah, you already did it. As a matter of fact, you did this 8 years ago. Remember that mission you went on in your background when you ran from one place to another and you cast out of there? Yeah, your old personality was actually left behind. You're just a copy of yourself, and they already did it. Oh, and by the way, you've been running around this time unfettered. Yeah, they're coming after you already. And they're like, damn it, Game Master stole my idea from me. You know? Yes, Deadman brings up podmorphs in Eclipse Phase are assembled in days. And are there podmorphs that are basically off the shelf identical versions of themselves. I think that fits into that as pretty easily. Now, it might not exactly be twins if various people have different cortical stacks, but player character goes to a high class dinner and all of the wait staff look exactly the same. You don't know who the wait staff is, but they all look the same because maybe they're all pods that were assembled, or maybe the caterer only hires or only utilizes identical pods for all their staff because it just makes it is more of a feeling that all the staff looks and acts exactly the same. Maybe they are genderless pods that all the staff temporarily inhabit for these high end dinners or something. And maybe one of the player characters is like, "Ooh, I can use that to my advantage. Let's kidnap one of them, or let's I'm going to hack the system so that I get one of those pods assembled, and I'm going to join one of the staff." I'm like, oh, makes sense. Pretty good. What's your deception or stealth ability? Instead of hiding in shadows, it's more of a how do I blend with everyone else to act exactly the same with the one hand behind the back and the other hand holding the silver trays, giving out hors d'oeuvres to the rich and famous, right? Yep. Yeah, Ultron's, yeah, Dennis says Ultron's VA was Jarvis, or a virtual assistant was Jarvis. So, but my point being is that Jarvis was created by Tony Stark, and then when Jarvis became sentient, it's like it's almost like your identity in social media isn't you, but it is, right? It's like twinning by proxy, by osmosis, maybe. Yeah. Yep, Deadman says plastic surgery could easily make everyone look the same. Yeah, the voice actor was yeah. Wow, my brain just disappeared with who the voice actor was, who became the real actor who played Vision. But whatever. Yeah, but yeah. David Spader was the voice for Ultron, and Jarvis was, I can't remember his name now for some reason. Yep. Yeah, I'm sure you guys can find that out. Yeah, but again, why the concept? Mind you, of course, yes, it's superheroes, but a clone or a copy of a player character might have some kind of antagonistic feelings to the copy of themselves. Maybe they felt like they weren't saved, they were left behind. Maybe, there's also psychological damage that can happen as well. Both Altered Carbon and Eclipse Phase, there's a cost to be paid for forking yourself over and over again. Yes, it sounds dirty. I don't necessarily, well, I guess I do mean the dirty version, but I'm talking about cloning, making copies of your mind over and over again and having them exist out there. There is, there is psychological harm mechanically in the games. Paul Bettany, thank you so much. Oh, tip of the tongue. Yes. Yes, Paul Bettany was both the voice actor and the real actor. Well, rather, the voice actor for Jarvis, the real actor for Vision, whatever. But yes, Paul Bettany, thank you so much. Who's a good actor on his own. Anyway, the idea of having your own clone or copy become your antagonist may simply be a result of a psychological fray, a discordance, a dysmorphic result of knowing that someone out there, for whatever reason, is running around being you. And so that is portrayed mechanically in a game. And so player characters who, if a player comes to you and says, I want to make a squad of soldiers that are basically copies of me, I've got the cash and or resources and the game can't stop me. On one hand, you can say, sure, you could do this. On the other hand, remember, every time a player decides to make a copy of themselves, that copy is a fully realized version of that same player character's character. So they're going to have their own agenda. A player character that says, I'm going to copy myself and make a squad. Every member of that squad has that same exact idea. One or more of them may run off. Um, as a matter of fact, if the player character themselves says, if any of my squad gets out of hand, I'm going to blow their stacks out, by virtue of copying their own personalities, every other personality will have the exact same thinking, right? So if a player character has a nefarious, if they treat their copies as if they are nothing more than tools, they are useless, soulless mechanisms to be used, their copies will think the same thing of the player characters. A great, a great tool to use in your toolbox as a game master. Yep, yep. Um, so the idea that a Tony Stark like player character exists in the world who, through a course of events, creates his own Ultron against him, yeah, I could see that happening very much so. You know, again, the badass player character being hunted by himself, by a squad of people themselves, or um, a a criminal is leaving uh, evidence around, so the authorities are constantly hounding the player character. And they're like, "Who is this person that's ahead of me and knows where I'm at?" And or they're like, I wasn't on the moon. I've never been to the moon." And then, of course, you have the idea like, "Have I ever been to the moon? I deleted it myself." No. I was never at the moon. But why do they have me committing a crime on the moon? Who's doing this? What faction is doing this against me? Come to find out that it's just one of their other personalities. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to pull. You're an expert at hiding your identity. I need to pull you out and get you to come forward and come to my turf so I can pin you down and kill you because you're running around doing these missions and I'm on a mission myself, but I can't do it with you running around. Things like that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, there are sad track records of Paul Bettany and Michael Fassbender and a bunch of others. They're like, you guys are you guys are far better than the material you're doing, right? Yeah, there is a lot of that. But okay, so back to the toolbox. Toolbox. Because of how technology works in these games, the duplication, twinning, invasion of the body snatchers thing, of course, does not have to operate on a physical level. A a person's mind could be copied, and that mind itself, I guess, similar to the Tony Stark versus Ultron idea, is the fact that the player character might be hounded by their own personality, but never see themselves in an actual physical body that looks like them. They could be a pure digital consciousness. They could be in the body of a synth morph. And as a matter of fact, there is an adventure in Eclipse Phase called Ego Hunter, where all of the player character, the pre-made pre-gen characters, are they are fragments of a central personality. Yes, I'm giving it away. Sorry about the spoilers. They are all fragments of the same personality of the big bad who's going after the player characters, while the player characters are hunting down the fragments of their own personality, which sounds pretty complicated, but I love it. I think it's like a warm blanket when it's that complicated. That you get together and everyone's like, "Hey, why don't we all play divergent pieces of a singular personality, and we're going around either trying to eliminate and or reconstitute bits and chunks of our own personality, while at the same time there's one or more people who are the confluence of all of our personalities hunting us down, right? And who's right, who's wrong, doesn't matter. Let's go." That's I think that's a great idea to use as a backdrop. Hey, get four people together, everyone makes a player character, and then all you do as a game master master and write down, okay, who's got the highest stat in this, all right? Highest stat, highest stat, highest stat. Oh, yep, they are. Let's just merge it all together, right? Using a Dungeons and Dragons reference, sure, there's 17th level monk, 16th level cleric, 8th level fighter, 12th level warlock, 14th level, I don't know, paladin or something. Of course they are. And is that ridiculous? Yeah, but how fun would that be? you know, and and in a weird, strange way, each player character kind of knows the weakness of the main person, even though on their own they would never be able to take them out. So all the personalities would have to work together. Maybe like the movie The One. I know it's transdimensional, but like in the movie The One, maybe the big bad evil guy who is the sole sum total of all the player characters is going around trying to find all of the other fragmented personalities while while the players themselves are trying to stop their own big bad evil guy from getting all the fragments, because if they do that, then they really won't be able to fight this person. Yeah, one person found out something that would get them killed, so they splintered themselves to make sure they could survive in some form. Hell yeah, hell's yeah. That's the the trope of the I've woken up and I don't know what's going on. That's where you can have a protagonist in a story and also be the person we follow while following the story. The Jason Bourne series is a perfect example of this, where although we've seen plenty of examples of it, person wakes up, they don't know what the heck's going on, they're given little bits and pieces of information, they go on a mystery tour, as it were, like The Hangover, to try to reassemble what happened in the past. And maybe, just maybe, this was done on purpose so that no one person knows the sum total of the thing that happened. In Eclipse Phase, the background of Eclipse Phase is that Earth has been devastated by a war, and it's somewhat, there's room to have a nebulous accounting of what happened when Earth was devastated by the conflict with the Titans and the exposure to people with the exogen virus and people leaving Earth. Maybe someone had something to do with nuclear war or eliminating their enemies or stealing the lottery ticket to escape Earth, or et cetera, right? And then they've deleted or fragmented some kind of source code or information leading to hidden resources of data or money or something of that nature. And so they've fragmented it, separated it, much like taking a classic old treasure map and ripping it apart into pieces and giving it to each other person, or the idea of, I'm going to pay you $100, kid, rip it in half, here's one half of it, you can't spend it till I give you the other half, kind of idea, right? You can't continue with this mission because you need me, and it's all in my head and it's in your head, so we got to work together to put this together. Yeah, very much so. Tesla, I'm sorry. Rickard goes on to say, or you have each splinter have one small part of the secret, so the corporation who wants the info needs all the splinters to get the info. Yeah, exactly, right? I kind of went off on that. Sorry about that, dude. But yeah, we're always on the same page, despite our differences, right? Halfway around the world, and yet we're of one mind. but that is exactly what I'm talking about, where we need the access codes for this old data bank or something. It's like, I've got 3 digits. That's the only thing in my head. That's the reason why you often see the witness protection thing. You have to eliminate everything in your background. And oh, by the way, don't tell me where you're going. Right? I think that perfectly fits into this kind of story style. Tesla Ranger says, Clara Oswald on Doctor Who shattered into millions of what Riversong referred to as echoes or splinters that were dispersed throughout the Doctor's personal timeline. Now you're getting a lot with Doctor Who. You're getting quite metaphysical, but could you use that in these games? I'm going to say yes. Um, there is no difference between an AI and a human personality in these games, both mechanically, gaming wise, and the background of both Eclipse Phase, Alter Carbon, and many of these other things, right? There's not really any difference. So, someone very important, very powerful, maybe with a lot of secrets, could have purposefully broken, downloaded their brain, purposefully made splinters or echoes of their knowledge, knowing remember, effectively, people are have effective immortality in this world, could separate themselves into dozens, hundreds, even thousands of splinters, and place themselves into other people's cortical stacks, knowing one day, maybe one day, they will reassemble, even if it takes thousand years. That one day they will reconstitute into one personality, but these splinters now exist in the player characters in the form of little bits and pieces of memories that come up every now and again. And listen, here's another great tool. You play 3 sessions. Now you want to drop another clue to the player characters. Guess what? You had a fever dream. You wake up. You've got 2 more numbers, or you remember spending time in a mining facility on Pluto, or you're walking down the street and you see someone on I don't know, Earth 2 or something that looks exactly like you, or you remember this person from your past. It's been years, but just for some reason, this person just sticks in your mind, but you just happen to remember, right? Perfect, easy. I need to get this information or an NPC to the player character. So what? We've played 3 games and you didn't remember seeing this person before. Well, guess what? Today, now you remember. Now it drudges up in your memories. Boom. Instantly done, right? Um, Omen says the hangover could also lead to a new concept. Harry, seriously, dude? Really? Thank you very much, Harry. The only grognard in the tabletop RPG community older than myself. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the tip. Thank you very much for the cup of coffee. I think I'll need one after this. So, um, the cup of coffee will be on you. I really appreciate it. Yes, I've had sound. I've been having sound issues, and I think it's more. I don't think it's my hardware. I think it's just all. It's my tri-casting, tri-casting this show over 3 platforms. I think has a lot to do with that as well. With a bunch of other people waking up in the morning here in the states. Omen says the hangover could also lead to a new concept. What if Alan and the others are just clones of the originals who were too drugged to resist being cloned? So you're saying a bunch of different people would wake up as clones of one of the members wake up as clones of each other, and they're like, "What the hell just happened?" And they're like, "Well, what the hell happened to you? You look like me." Like, no, I look like you. How do we all look like each other? That's weird. That's really weird. Um, okay, let me see if I can do this. Oh, give me a clone of my own flesh and bone, with its Y chromosomes changed to X. And after it's grown, then my own little clone will be one of the opposite sex. The clone song, Isaac Arthur, sung to the tune of Home on the Range. Yep. Thank you, Tesla. Tesla Ranger. Thank you so much for that. Oh man, I didn't know. I didn't realize it was an Isaac Arthur. Isaac Asimov, not Isaac Arthur. Shit, I saw the. I saw it. Sorry. Yeah, my fault. Clone song, Isaac Asimov, which I don't know. Isaac Arthur might be a close second in there in terms of his production. Um, Isaac Asimov having passed away, Isaac Arthur having a 500,000 subscribers on an excellent YouTube channel. Got to check it out if you haven't done so and you love uh, transhumanist thoughts and things. Yeah, yeah. So drunk they decided to clone themselves just because. That could actually be a one-off adventure too. Just like whatever. You know. Thank you so much, dear Tesla. I didn't mean to ruin it on the end there, but yep. Yep, Stu and the other guys are just clones. Yeah. Which by the way, in its own strange, weird. You guys are so funny. Uh, with its own strange, unique kind of like referencing. Maybe it's possible that an investigation needs to happen with the player characters temporarily all inhabiting the same cloned body because they know that it will throw off the people who are committed the crime, right? Like the player character, like for an example would be a player character that inhabits the dead wife of someone for the sole purpose of getting that person to be thrown off by seeing the face of that individual, much like this first season of Altered Carbon, right? Takashi wakes up in a battle morph, biomorph with combat skills, but come to find out that he looks exactly, because he is exactly like a cop that her partner who passed away, and so she's kind of thrown off because she has feelings for the face but not the personality behind it, but then starts having feelings for the personality. So it might be shorthand in an investigation, like, you know what, to get under this guy's skin, let's all become copies of people from this guy's past so we can get under his skin or something like that, right? Or what we're going to do is to get this person to be distracted. Let's all become copies of one person that's his rival, and we're all like six or seven of us, and we're all going to walk around, and he's going to see us out the corner of his eye, and he's going to make a mistake, and then we'll get him at that point, right? Or the bank robber thing, where they all wear masks that look alike. You know, they all wear the presidential, bank robbery masks or something, or the Juggalo masks or something. That this is a higher tech version of the same thing. Like, we're not all going to wear masks. We're all going to find a clone body, maybe even kidnap kidnapping someone in a financial institution, getting their DNA, cloning their body. All the criminals get into the clone of the person they kidnapped, commit the crime. So now there's DNA spread all over, biological material spread all over of this one person as the six criminals try to get away with it, only to leave the person and let that person go and blame them for the crime, even though everyone knows that there's like six or seven copies of that person running around. Yeah, Harry says, yeah, Paranoid started with the six clones. Yeah, tricky dicky. Yeah, Paranoid starts with the six clones, right? What's the game Paranoia? Is it Paranoia where you start with six clones? And there's still a cult following for Paranoia, the RPG. Yeah, that, well, maybe that's one of the first one of the first transhuman role playing games out there that's got a cult following of Paranoia. Yeah. So I'm liking that. Yeah, you start with six clones and have fun back, backstabbing each other in the game, only to come back again. It's kind of cool. And of course, yep, paranoia. And of course, in these games with the restart button, the respawn button being in the game itself, there is no reason why a player character can't go on a suicide mission knowing that they're just going to be respawned at some other point, right? So why not play with the mechanisms? It's, in a strange way, it plays with the idea that death isn't the end of the adventure. Ricker says neither the clones nor the originals remembers anything because they were blacked out drunk when the cloning happened. All characters in one body, like a trench coat man. um, I You can do a introductory game with the trench coat man idea. An example would be Mongoose Games did it. Yep. You could do the trench coat man idea. Okay, so yes, I'm running a little bit late on that show, but I don't care. Trench coat man idea. Yes, the idea of a bunch of short people all stacked on top of each other wearing a trench coat, right? But in a digital fashion, for example, Yeah, yeah. You're not cleared for that, citizen. Yeah. Paranoia memories. Yeah. Oh, it's ridiculous. Tongue-in-cheek game that's so fun. Anyway, um, a perfect example of trench coat manning when it comes to duplicates and cloning and things would be player characters need to go on a mission and cast into some place like Luna, okay, the moon. They have all their bodies set up. They know they've got the blueprints to print off their equipment. They're ready to go. They arrive, and guess what? They arrive. Every personality arrives in one beat up, useless case synthmorph. Some mechanical body reactivated in some, backwater thing or something. And then they are given information by firewall or agency or whatever to say, hey guys, listen, there's been an uprising, security's been tight, your bodies are available for you, but we couldn't cast you in directly into your bodies. So all five of you are going to have to hang out inside of this mechanical body in the brain and figure your way to get to the security location to then get into your stack, which is inside of your bodies that are waiting for you to do the mission. And oh, by the way, um, because you're in this like basically beat up case morph, you don't have any security access. You're going to have to find out, you know, get in contact with the people who are your handlers or something here, and they're not going to know who you are, right? Like that is a version of doing the trench coatman thing in this kind of world. You could also have a this is this isn't quite trench coating it, but a player character who is a gadgeteer could have other player characters play their drones or mechanical devices or something. So instead of six different player characters, it's one player character who happens to have other player characters playing bits and pieces of their equipment, which is perfectly possible to do, or playing bits and pieces of their entourage. For example, uh, a gadgeteer could have a small mouse on their shoulder, which is really a mouse or monkey sized morph that you can play in Eclipse phase, but it just happens to be portrayed by another player character, right? And then I've got a drone that can fly through the tunnels or something, and one person's like, "Well, how about I play that thing or something, right?" Or someone wants to play a nanotech swarm, but happens to be in the backpack of the gadgeteer, and he's like, and instead of saying, "Well, my character is a human being," like, "Well, he just programmed me and made me." He's my programmer, and I'm one of his I'm the snarky robot assistant that always disagrees with him, even though he created me, right? Like that could very easily be an origin story, much like C3PO is the origin story from Anakin, even though C3PO is his own person, right? Just why not reflavor, reskin, reuse, repurpose a storyline like that? I know who I am. I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. Yeah, which I was going to mention that too. Like you could possibly make multiple layers of playing somebody who's playing somebody who's playing somebody else, which would be kind of funky though. But hell yeah. Scott says off topic. Help support the USPS, but buy forever stamps and memorabilia. Let's be there for them as they are for us. Thank you so much, by the way, there's dude. Thank you very much. Just to let you guys know, yes, I am a letter carrier in the Postal Service in the United States. And I want to say one other thing, too, out there. Thank everybody out there who is thanking all the essential workers. We really appreciate it. But the United States is also engaged in something that has actually caused at least one death, if not more. A woman was gunned down in Indiana, 45 years old, letter carrier, because the United States is giving out stimulus checks. Now, many people who have direct deposit or filed their taxes with direct deposit have gotten their stimulus money. others who are transient in where they live are having those checks delivered to their last known address given to the government when they filed their taxes last. Many of those people who might be transient could be a little bit on the rude side, and some are actually taking out physical violence against postal workers who are doing the prototypical "Where's my check?" So, if you know something or you see something in your neighborhood, a postal carrier being accosted by someone, being followed by a vehicle, or you see like an argument happening, say something, record it, be on their side. Hell, slow your car down and just watch or something. Look out for us out there. People are trifling, and so in a very serious note. I mean, it ended on that kind of note, but yeah, yeah, just be careful out there. Robert Downey Jr. Inception, the Tesla. Where you going with that one? Yeah, that's but yes. In the movie Inception, there was a person who played another person. I could see you could very easily have player characters be clones who are now cloning themselves to be other clones who are portraying another dude. um, Mission Impossible style, even. I put on the biological mask and change my voice, and now I'm going to be the other person. But you could even go so far as to have your personality reprogrammed, a la Total Recall, so that the player character is playing a character who has a personality that they created only to find out that they are a clone and artificial personality of the real person to get under or into or infiltrate someplace to do a thing, only to try to have the bad guy reconstitute the player character who's really artificial to begin with. Ugh, okay. Um, Oh, yes, you're right. It was a RD. Sorry about that, Tesla. Yeah, the quote was from RDJ in Tropic Thunder, where he's like, "Yeah, know who I am? I'm a dude playing the dude disguised as another dude." Yeah, which he's he's playing blackface, which normally would seem rather ridiculous and even offensive, but the reasoning behind it is like because the other actors are like portraying other people and he's like getting into the role and stuff like that, everything there. So yeah, so thanks, Scott. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, like I said, not just looking out for me, but for not for me. I'm actually in isolation right now because of bronchial my bronchial symptoms, but there are others out there who, people are trifling. They'll shoot you for $1,200 check you may or may not have, and I fear that check stress is something that I do not like in my job. So, Deadman says, played a game of Eclipse Phase with a guy playing a Neo Raven who was sleeved in a Synthotar morph who ran around in bipedal mode, so he was a bird acting like a horse, acting like a person. Yeah. You can start stacking to the point where you're just like, wait, what? Like, I love you so much, but you have to tell me who you are. Well, listen, dear, I'm a dolphin who's like a neo avian, who's really like a neo gorilla, who is an AI who's now being a person. So, not exactly certain who I am. Scott Poe says the new Jumanji movies kind of do this, right? All the players are turned into game characters. Ooh. Imagine. Okay, follow me on this. Imagine a squad of soldiers, mercenaries. You could even go with entertainment or something. The squad of soldiers are all represented by 4, 5, 6 archetypes, right? The sniper, the gunman, the brick, the sneak or whatever. But every time they go on a mission, the personalities of the agents get to switch between all of the mission bodies. So there's no set personality with any body. It's just that the the individuals can switch off from body to body based on the mission parameters, and maybe even within the mission itself, they can switch back and forth from body to body based on what's needed for um, the mission parameters, which might be a really cool idea, right? Like, um, I'm thinking of a good example. Okay, someone gets pinned down, someone else gets kidnapped, the squad gets separated. You know, the squad leader's like, "Listen, all right, you're the sneak, but I'm going to need you to get into the brick's body. So uh, I'm going to put your stack into my drone. Your drone's going to go fly and find the brick. You're going to get into his body, reactivate it, and then and break us the hell out of here, right? Yeah." Yeah, and Tesla's like, why not? The morph is just another piece of equipment. And actually, that's a really cool. That's a really cool concept for the players to get together, right? Especially if you have players who, some players get bored very easily. They constantly want to make a new character. New character syndrome, the new and shiny. This might be a meeting of the minds where I get to make my character's personality, but I also get to pick what kind of equipment I want, right? And that equipment is my body. Right? Hey, I want to play the combat morph in this session. Okay, sure. Next session, I want to play the combat morph. I want to be the face of the group. I want to be the one with the pheromones and the hypnotic voice and looking all sexy and stuff. Yeah, I want to play the literally gender fluid character that goes into the dinner place. Blah blah blah. They're like, well, you played the sniper last time. Like, well, I wanted to play this. You know what? Next time I'll play the sneak, but this time I'll play the face. How about you? You played the gunman before. You bored with that? You're like, yeah. I want to play the gadget person, the hacker. Okay, I'll do that. But everyone has the same personality and even the same skill set, with maybe a couple of shared elements between the two. So I think that's a great idea to use it for the game. Yeah, Deadman says if you're going to support the USPS, make sure you are buying from the post office directly and not some random site. Yeah, the purchasing of forever stamps should be done either through one of the machines or across the counter, or I think you can do so online at usps.com.org, which will lead you to .gov. But yeah, you can absolutely do that if you want to support the United States Postal Service, which we are in a weird kind of billions of dollars in the hole, yet our busiest we've ever been. I it is as busy or more than our Christmas season, which is crazy because medications, bulk deliveries are up. People who have never ordered anything in their life are getting deliveries. Family members are signing their older relatives. Harry Shore and I know what that feels like. We graybeards are being signed up for delivery of things that we've never signed up for because family members who can't visit their locked away loved ones need certain materials and things delivered to them. So yeah, there's a ton more delivery of things that have never been delivered or needed to be delivered before at a greater rate than ever with a organization that is in the hole by billions, which is weird. Yeah, Omen, have a great one. I see he's got to go off to work. Yeah, it's crazy. Ricker says that might be the only blackface that haven't killed a career in modern times. That is, though they did spend a lot of time lampshading it and subverting it. You're so right with that. And honestly, and listen, it's so funny. It's so hilarious because they subverted the subversion, which made it that much more hilarious. And the funny thing is, it's Robert Downey Jr. It should have killed his career. He's more popular than a little bit. He's Iron Man, for God's sakes. So you're so right. You're so right. But anyway, guys, I should be calling an end to this now. I think you can hear in my voice that I'm starting to get a little bit choked up. I'm starting to tear up a little bit because I can feel it down in the. I can feel some schmelkus down in the gonectogazoink, and it wants to come up and flee my body. So thank you very much for all those out there. This show is TriCast over Twitch, YouTube, and our Discord server. We hang out in the boiler room if you join our Discord server as well. So you can live participate in the show that way. Please drop a comment, like, share, subscribe, whatever. I sure would like to have, unfortunately, to become an affiliate in Twitch. I have to have at least three average. My average viewership needs to be three or more on average. Right now, it's sitting at like 2.3. And so that average can only happen by people going over to Twitch and following and watching the show. Now, you don't necessarily have to watch the show if you want to support your channel. You might want to just go over to Twitch, find, RPG with DBJ, log in, and then friggin' turn the sound down or turn the picture off or whatever. Whatever your case might be. Also, if you're bored, we have a backlog of hundreds of hours of this show, so appreciate you taking part in that. So guys, everyone, thank you very much for participating in the show. I really appreciate everyone out there. Next week, for our weekly theme, we will be talking food and drink, pretty much culturally speaking, and we might even talk a little bit about, we might segue that kind of into Future Friday, but Future Friday is no way linked to the Monday through Thursday live streams in terms of themes. So we might get into some other things as well. So guys, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day. Have a great Friday. I'll see you later. Oh, one last thing. One last thing. Tomorrow there will be a Monster Monday. Yes, it's on Saturday. I know. And it's going to throw people off because many of you I very rarely broadcast on Saturdays. There will be a Monster Monday tomorrow. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a great one. See you. Bye.